It's a great outlook on it. I've seen interviews with guys like Bobby Heenan and New Jack, of all people, saying how the New Jack one is how he thought the Dudleys ripped off his look when they came to WWF. You know, they started wearing the camo, but and Bobby Heenan too. When people steal his stuff, they both said it's like they take it as a compliment. At the end of the day, it really is. They're borrowing because it was good to begin with. You know.
But yeah, if you had the same idea as Bobby Heenan, that means that my head's in the right place. There's no better mind for the business than Bob.
Exactly.
And New Jack
Logan,
too, right?
Logan, when you look at Greywolf specifically, I think of guys immediately like a Killian Dane, a War Machine, just that awesome, that quite honestly a look that's missing in modern wrestling. Just a straight up, and yes, this is a cussy podcast, a shit kicker look. Somebody that wouldn't like back in the day when I was a kid, the Barbarian. Say what you want, whether he was Powers of Pain or just wearing fur all over. He was intimidating as hell. He didn't need to be able to wrestle a Meltzer 5-star match. That's all he needed, and that's sorely missing. I feel in today's. Do you kind of feel that way, Greywolf, about modern wrestling?
I know the business is. Excuse me, I'm a little under the weather right now. The business is it's changed from what it was 20, 30 years ago. And that's what I love. I was always drawn to, the bigger, powerful men, because I believed that looking at somebody like that, they could destroy anything in their path. And it was believable. And you could relate to it that, wow, this is the biggest man in the room, and he's going to destroy everything in his path, and nobody's going to stand in his way. So I think there's a certain menacing aspect of that that's really not so much there. I think from the little bit I've seen of mainstream, because I don't really follow, they have the brothers with the hammers now that come out. You have them, sort of doing things. You have War Machine, who are these big powerful men. But I think as an overall product, if you want to present something, wrestlers should have something intimidating about them. That was always my belief, and that's personally what I like to see, because in order to suspend a disbelief as a fan, you don't want to look like the person you could get in there and wrestle the person sitting next to you in the chair. How do you? Then they're no longer larger than life. Then they're just a person you see at the bar. And I see so much of that there's nothing imposing or intimidating or different or unique. And you don't necessarily have to be intimidating per se, but there should be something more grandiose about you. There should be something that's not just your average person walking down the street. You look at somebody. I like to look at Rick Martel. When he was doing his model thing back in the day, he wasn't necessarily an immense individual. He was in great shape and he was large, but he obviously wasn't the person sitting in the second row. He had a good physique on him. He had something. He had a look to him. And you didn't like him specifically because of that look. But I feel like it really is a niche that's a little underexplored today, and I think that's because the doors have opened to now where anybody can get in the business. You don't necessarily have to be in good shape to be in the business. You don't have to go to a gym. You don't have to be big. I mean, I remember sharing the locker room with a lot of veterans who would say if you weren't, well over 6 foot back in the 80s and early 90s, that Vince wouldn't look at you. So and myself, I'm not even 6 foot, so that might have disqualified me, but what lack in height, I try to make up for in width.
I mean, if Ivan Koloff was a world champion, you would have been shoo-in, no doubt.
Yeah.
He wasn't the tallest man, I'm just saying.
Well, remember how crazy it is that, for example, Big Cass in WWE, they say he's 7 foot tall on programming, but he's really 6'11".
Yeah, that's what they do. I mean, that's fine. You're
WWE.
Supposed to extras. I feel like when the average Joe thing, you hit the nail on the head. It's overdone, and I feel like it's okay to do that. But when you do that, you do it in a David versus Goliath scenario, and that's your babyface. But what makes him larger than life is for when he finally overcomes the heel Goliath, so to speak. You see that glimpse of a star for when he finally gets the win. He takes it over the top in the end, and he's no longer the David at the end of that story. It's like it's a coming of age, so to speak. Those are the best kind of babyface angles, in my opinion. You know what I mean? But I feel like if you have a Daniel Bryan, you have a Johnny Gargano, you have a Kevin Owens, you're exactly right, Sami Zayn. When there's too many of those, you're right. It's too much. Definitely.
And I just feel like it's really blown up in the door. We're athletes, right? First and foremost, we are athletes. and we're entertainers, but first and foremost, we're supposed to be presenting ourselves as reasonably fit to win a professional wrestling contest. And I feel like on a higher level, you really should at least develop your physique and be in some sort of shape. You don't have to be, you had your Dusty Rhodes, who were just large, huge men, but there was always something a little different, a little something. They weren't just your next door neighbor, or the guy at the bar having, too many drinks. And now
in Dusty's case, he was the guy at the bar with Murdoch, and that's crazy. I was literally about to make a Murdoch reference. You'd be like, well, you could even make the argument back in the day, guys like Murdoch weren't in shape. Go back and watch a Murdoch in his prime. You wouldn't want to mess with him because you could tell he was an athlete in there. He could move like a cat for a guy like that didn't look like he was in shape at all. You wouldn't want to mess with him.
But these men were also enormous. Dusty Rhodes was enormous.
The Bruiser, the Crusher, all those guys. Yeah,
they're all enormous. So to really answer your question, Lucy, I think it is missing to a degree. As it's evolved, the business has been exposed. The doors have been sort of blown open, and I think it's good because it provides other people who are not so genetically inclined opportunities that they wouldn't have had before. But you should still have something about you larger than life. If it's not your body, which everybody's not going to have a body larger than life, have your personality should speak for you. How you move, what you do, something should separate you from just another person in the crowd. And if I might also comment on Barbarian, also Warlord, tremendous people. I've shared a locker room with them on many occasions, got to learn from them on many occasions, and they were absolutely tremendous individuals. So props to them also.
That's awful. That's like, are they still bodyguards for G Unit, or Warlord was at one point?
Oh, I have no idea.
Man, that was I could imagine sitting under and you're like the total the prototype guy to sit under their learning tree because you're a bigger guy. You can't work. I mean, I'm not saying you can't, but you would probably prefer not to have to work a style of a smaller guy. You know what I mean? I'm sure you're not opposed to taking less bumps. You know what I mean? And those are probably the perfect guys to learn to work that brooding style with that, dirty word anymore, psychology.
Yeah, absolutely. And you reference things. Why would I work a smaller guy style? But those who haven't seen me yet, look at my picture. I'm a savage barbarian, and I come in, I yell, I scream, and people don't want to see me put on a wrist lock. Quite frankly, that's not what they want to see. They don't want to see me chain wrestle. I could and I can. I'm a coach, and these are things I teach. So sometimes I'll get in there in a training session and I'll do all sorts of chain wrestling moves that nobody's ever seen me do before, and they're like, "Oh my God, what's Greywolf doing? I've never seen him do this. How's he doing?" Well, but that's not the product I choose to present when I'm wrestling.
Yeah.
I'm a bigger, more menacing person. I just, if you follow any of my hashtags, I hashtag and put pictures up of me throwing people. So I'll hashtag throwing people because that's what I like to do. I like to get in there. I like to throw people.
I'm gonna do that hashtag now on Twitter. Hashtag throwing people.
Bam Bam Bigelow, Spike Dudley style, ECW.
Yep.
Launch him. That's what's missing in modern wrestling. Just throwing guys into the crowd. That's what needs to come back.
Throwing people. My favorite is taking and BL tossing somebody across the ring.
Yes.
Take a big BL toss across the ring, or press them over my head, or something to that effect.
And that's why I'm such a big fan of Braun Strowman.
Yes, because he throws people.
He threw Michael Cole across the stage. It was hilarious. Greywolf, what was your favorite moment in your career?
That's a question I'm often asked. And that's one of the difficult questions because there's so many different moments that I love for so many different reasons and were special to me in so many different ways. It's really hard to pick one defining moment in my career. Winning the tag team championships at the Monster Factory was a big one for me because it's my home. That's where I was trained. One of my first title matches, my first title match outside of my home promotion that I had done was against the Honorable RGP. We basically did Ultimate Warrior Honky Tonk Man from when Honky Tonk Man lost the title. I came running out and I gave him a few clotheslines and a tackle and gave him a splash, and it was over. But my music played the entire time, so watching it was almost like a rock video. It was just almost like watching a music video. It was over in 30 seconds. So that was a big one. My favorite match probably, and this is just because personally, it's a mentor of mine, Pitbull Gary Wolf. We wrestled. It was out in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania, in a warehouse in front of about 20 people, maybe 25 if we were lucky. And it was myself against Pitbull Gary Wolf, and he was a mentor. He's a very good friend of mine, and just being able to wrestle him, even though almost in an ECW style match, and he's the only person to ever submit me. So in that match, he's the only person to ever tap me out. So that was a very big moment for me. Wrestling the Briscoe brothers on national TV for Ring of Honor was another big moment for myself. And another really, really special one to me was the Blue Meanie is a good friend of mine, and he was being inducted into the ECW Arena Hall of Fame. So there was a whole show we did where a couple of people got inducted that night. Shane Douglas, I believe, got inducted. Pitbull 1 and 2 got inducted. Too Cold Scorpio was inducted, and it was Blue Meanie also who was inducted that night. And that's the home, being from Philadelphia, and this is the very big part of their heritage.
Yeah, definitely. Most definitely. Did you go to the Hardcore Homecoming show they had in 2005, like the night before the original One Night Stand at the arena?
No, I didn't. I'd never gone to a show there, aside from working there. But that night it was myself, fellow Monster Factory graduates, Mark Cruz and Mike Spanos, and it was against the Blue Meanie, and Nunzio, and another person. It was supposed to be. Here's the funny part: is we told Blue Meanie it was Cliff Compton who we were wrestling with. Who's going to be his partner for the 6-man tag. So we're going over our match downstairs in the back. We have a little cellar down there. It was almost like a parking garage sort of thing. So we're going over our match, and Blue Meanie was genuinely upset because he tried to talk about things to Cliff, and Cliff would keep walking away. And Blue Meanie, being a very nice person, he was just almost I felt like he was about to cry because I was upset that Cliff don't want anything to do with our match. Well, what he didn't know is that was a diversion. They really brought in Al Snow, who's a very, very good friend, and helped train Blue Meanie and guide him as a mentor. And last minute, right before our match, Al Snow comes into the building and says, "Guess what? Surprise! I'm your partner, and I'm going to help induct you into the Hall of Fame." So that night, yeah. So it was Meanie was the happiest I've ever seen him. So it was a big night for him, and we got to wrestle with them that night, me and the 2 other factory people, against Blue Meanie, Nunzio, or Little Guido, he calls himself there, and Al Snow. And all 3 of us took the finish at the same time. I got bopped in the head by Al Snow's head, and they finished us off like that. So it was a very special night for me as well, because Blue Meanie being a good friend of mine, it was just a very magical sort of atmosphere, him being inducted that night, and I was the one who had the privilege of wrestling him that night.
That's amazing. I will vouch for Meanie too. I've met Meanie like twice, and he's one of those guys that definitely like goes out of his way to. He's very down to earth. He'll actually talk to you and conversate with you. You know what I mean? Seems like a very nice guy, and that would definitely be up there for me too, man. That is, and congratulations on all those accolades. And you bring up the Ring of Honor thing. I'll go ahead and ask that. How was that experience? What's the biggest thing you took away from that? And I'm sure you would, but I mean, would you go back?
Oh, actually, with the Ring of Honor, I'm friends with a lot of the people there at Ring of Honor, and I can't say enough good things, and it's remarkable. And the experience of having wrestled the Briscoe brothers, so also friends of mine. I'd been friends with the Briscoes for years on national television. That was just an amazing experience. But we had gone down the night before, helped set up. Usually I'd go help set up with the arena and do ring crew and all sorts of other things. Just the camaraderie there, because so many people, you get close to them, and I'm very close with people like Cheeseburger and Will Ferrara and Jay Diesel, who are very good friends of mine who work for that. So it's just you have this camaraderie, and Red Titus, who I've known for years, and you just have this camaraderie there. And the thing with Ring of Honor, it's like family there. Once you're in and they're very, very close, and they all do everything together, and it's just being like they're like a family is the closest thing I can relate to it. So that was it was fantastic, and it was actually
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It was actually when I injured myself, I was actually training at the Ring of Honor dojo because I had been training up there quite often. So I was doing a drill. I run 100 times, and my knee popped. They had to carry me down 2 flights of stairs. It was almost comical for being what it was. But yeah, they're all very good friends of mine, and I think nothing. Hunter, Delirious, I think I have nothing but the highest praise to say about all of them. You know,
I feel like Cheeseburger could be New Japan heavyweight champion. He's so over there. Whatever he goes over in Japan, and that guy's I enjoy all of their work. And yeah, man, I hope to see you there soon. Good luck with all those ventures, and that takes us to our obvious question. And I've been saving the best for Logan. Sure, it's one you either maybe dread or are used to getting all the time. But Logan, what we got for our friends tonight before we get out of here?
Would you ever consider going to NXT, well, WWE NXT?
would I consider it? You know, if the opportunity presented itself, perhaps. It's not necessarily a goal of mine. I'm not, you know, saying I want to be in WWE or I want to be in NXT. I know what those guys do. I know what it's like to be down in NXT. We actually have, from where we train at the Monster Factory, we have one of our students who went down there and who's been there for a couple of years now, Steve Cutler. So he sort of relates to this other thing that they have to do. It's a very intense lifestyle that they live. But I know how demanding it is and how strict and regimented that is. And there's not so much freedom as perhaps I'd like. But if circumstance would allow, it would really depend on how it was presented, if it was offered to me right and at the right time and place. It's not an ambition of mine to go there. I mean, I'd much rather focus on something like a Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, or something to that effect, where I know I'd be happy. You know, I'm not sure if I'd be happy necessarily at an NXT being there. And the thing is, maybe I would. I don't know. But the thing is not knowing, and knowing how strict and regimented they are with what they do. Right. If they offered it to me in the future, but as I said, perhaps we'd have to see what the circumstance was. But it's not overly an ambition of mine to get there. If I do, fantastic. If not, it's not really a big thing for me.
And I'll kind of piggyback just mini question off Logan's. Would you agree? Because I hear it on shows all the time. I've heard Tuna Meltzer say it. I've heard Solid Monster. All these guys say it's the weirdest era ever where, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, but it seems like guys are making now more money on the indies and are happier than at any other time in pro wrestling since the territory days, you could say.
Excuse me.
It comes off that way, I think, to the fan that is quote in the know and follows news and stuff. It just seems like a case in point. Neil Dashwood seems like she's very happy right now, doing well for herself. Cody Rhodes, my God, yes. Talk about a guy that's a success story. Yeah,
I love what Cody's doing. Yes, we're in a boom time for pro wrestling, and anybody who's breaking into the business now, you're in a really, really fortunate era. Because you can go out and you can market yourself and you can make money on the independents. Unlike even 10 years ago, where if you weren't working for Vince McMahon, with those 40 spots that he had over people, you weren't making enough money to survive. Now, with the explosion of social media, with the explosion of marketing, with the renewed interest in wrestling, with so many, we call it flavors of ice cream, so many different styles of pro wrestling across the board. They run the gamut. If you want a more technical style, you can find that. If you want comedy, you can find that. If you want hardcore, you can find that. If you want more mainstream, you can find that. There's a little something for everybody.
If you want giant Japanese monsters and kaiju big battle, they got you there too. If that's your thing,
yes, yes, exactly. I mean, you have so many different things to choose from, and people are attending shows. And people, as long as you're marketing yourself correctly, as long as you're willing to work hard and be passionate about what you do, and really, really put the effort in, you can make a living and be happy on the independents right now. And I do like to sort of relate it back to the territories. You have a little more freedom, and there are a lot of places to go, and there's a lot of work, and there's great fan bases everywhere. And we're really in a fortunate time because of that. And I think it's great. I mean, look at David Starr and Matthew Riddle, the two people whose names I like to throw out there all the time. I think they'd make less money if they went to WWE.
Yeah.
And they're doing what they love to do.
Matt Riddle's
so
tremendous.
It really is just a great time for pro wrestling as a whole. We're really in the spike period, and it's different than it's ever been. We haven't seen a period quite like this in the history of wrestling, with just as far as its diversity is concerned. So it's a great thing, and I think we're really in it just as it's a tremendous period to be involved in pro wrestling. And you look at somebody like, I'm sure you follow Brutal Bob Evans, who is a teacher and does seminars all over the country and in Canada. And you have someone like that, whose example and whose lead you can follow. So there's just so many opportunities now, unlike it was even 5 years ago, let alone 10. So, and I just think it's going on an upward scale, and I hope it continues that way.
Brutal Bob Evans. They're just like the pro wrestling's Mickey from Rocky. That's what he reminds me.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But man, I can't think of any better note. You wrapped it up yourself, man. That was couldn't have said it better myself. I will say this in all seriousness before I plug myself and get out of here. It's refreshing, especially in something like pro wrestling, and much respect on the whole giving back aspect, because I know now you're a trainer to help young guys out. Man, that is nothing but mad respect. I wish we saw more of that. And on my end, Logan, thank you for having me. Mr. Greywolf, sir, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on, and we would love to have you back in the future. One more time, where can everyone catch your upcoming appearances, your social media, all that stuff out?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we're still good. You're still good.
All right, good. I'm sorry. I don't know if you cut out or I cut out or what happened there. So you said the last thing I heard is you heard it. It's something refreshing in pro wrestling, and
all right. I'll say my my thing again. I was saying, mad respect. It's very refreshing and tip of the hat, sir, that you're a guy that gives back now and you train young guys. It's something that I wish we saw more of. And in all seriousness, man, that's mad respect. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck in the future. Thank you so much for doing this. And one more time, where can everyone catch your upcoming appearances, your website, all your social media, all that good stuff out before we get out of here tonight?
Well, right now, I just opened up my booking schedule again, so there's going to be a few things coming up. Best thing to do is follow me on Twitter at TLW_Greywolf. That's Greywolf with an E. That's at Twitter, TLW_Greywolf. You can follow me on my personal Facebook page at facebook.com/xGreywolfX, and follow me on my Instagram at Greywolf Raventhorn. So you can follow me there. Also, as you're saying, I coach at the World. I'm very, very proud of the heritage. I was trained at the world famous Monster Factory. I'm now a coach at the world famous Monster Factory. So when I have the opportunity, I coach up there. And we have a camp coming up, open to anyone who wants to train in the business, has been in the business, who has no experience. We train valets, we train wrestlers, we train managers, we train commentary, we train announcers, anything. If you want, we train lighting and sound. I mean, anything you want to do in the business, we train and we coach. And that's going to be coming up April 20th through April 21st as our 2-day super camp. And we have the likes of Les Thatcher coming in. We have Rudy Gonzalez coming in from Texas, and we all know, these people have trained some of the best in the world. We have Ricky Reyes coming in, and we have Hurricane Helms coming in as coaches, plus a few other surprises. So I'll be also doing that. So you want to check us out at monsterfactory.org, or just punch in Monster Factory on Facebook, and you'll be able to find us there with any information. If you've never wrestled, come on out. If you have wrestled and you have many years experience, you're also going to be able to learn, and you'll be able to fine-tune and refine your craft. So there's going to be something for everybody. And I know I learn immensely every time, even from a coach's perspective, that we have a camp. So very, very excited about this. If you're looking to just train as a student at the Monster Factory, again, trying to get into pro wrestling, put the Monster Factory in the search bar. You can hit us up, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have about getting into the business. So that's about it for my plug. Oh, one more, the big match I have coming up. April 13th, East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, for 1CW. I wrestled my longtime nemesis, the Vamp King, Kindred Kamari. Now, he's the closest thing you'll have to a real vampire in the world. I think he is one. But we've been feuding forever. It's going to be brutal. It might be no rules, hardcore rules. So you want to comment on to that. It's all going to be on my website, all the information. So follow me and keep updated, and I post regularly. So your information will be there.
And I'll definitely be checking that out, because I've actually done some commentary in the past for a couple wrestling companies and stuff like that. So I'll definitely be contacting you a little bit more about that and the information.
Excellent.
Again, Greywolf, thank you so much for coming on and doing this with us. And it was a great time. I just love talking. Just love listening to the stories. But thank you again. Travis, go ahead and plug yourself.
You say I just love talking, even though you said like 3 sentences the whole show, but it's all good. Thank you for having me back, Logan, as always. Yes, follow me on Twitter at the HibickyTMD. HibickyTMD on YouTube, Retro Gaming, Pro Wrestling, all the goodness. It's Godzilla month right now, so stop by, check it out, hit that subscribe, catch me on Grapplevision, Never Drew a Dime. All the good stuff. Yeah, thank you again, Logan. Greywolf, sir, an honor, and I'll see you guys next time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And before I go, one more time, I just need my battle cry out of both of you. Haroof! Let me get a Haroof out of both of you.
Haroof!
There we go. That's it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yes,
and
sir.
again, you guys can check me right there on Twitter at LoganMyers144, and have a good night, ladies and gentlemen.